who can step up for Texas at wide receiver, cornerback, other positions that you see as a weakness, and especially young guys, I guess. Like, what are some guys that you look at that could step up?
Yeah, I think Khalil Lockett is one that I'm curious to see. He got to run with the twos. I think he's a guy who has a lot to bring to the table. He's kind of an athlete. He's more of that Ryan Wingo kind of mold where he's not as polished of a route runner, but he's an athlete. So I think if Texas is looking to roll in some more of these quicker shots, more of these kind of at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage plays, then I think he's a guy that could probably see a lot of run because he's got a good body that he can shake some guys up, but he's also pretty fast. He's one that I definitely want to see step up. Obviously, the guys that are existing already on the team, like I just don't know what's going on with DeAndre Moore. I don't know what's going on with Ryan Wingo. It's really shocking. I think you and I had them as two of the better wide receivers in the country, so I'm not sure what is going on with him. Aaron Butler's another one that I wonder if he's can get going again. He's more of a possession guy, I think, in what Texas needs, and being able to make those tough catches over the middle. Texas is really struggling to find a guy who can win those one-on-one jump balls, that big body kind of stuff. And then the health of Emmett Mosley. I don't know what's up with him. I'm not sure if it's going to be another situation where a transfer comes in and then doesn't see the field because of injury. That would absolutely suck. But he's a guy that I think if he gets healthy, he adds something that this wide receiver unit doesn't have, which is, again, that big body possession guy, kind of go up and get it, go up and fight for the ball, which is something that I think will also help with Arch's confidence.
No, 100%. I don't disagree with that. Khalil Lockett, been a big fan of his. And I think, listen, we know what this guy's strengths are. Again, getting back to knowing your personnel strengths, why don't we try to use him as a red zone threat, big body threat? Because yeah, we scored in this game in the red zone, but we also turned the ball over and we got a touchdown taken off the board. So if you can use them inside the 10-yard line, use them inside the 10-yard line. A guy like Dalen McCutcheon was a guy, out of camp. That's the name we heard. That was the main freshman wide receiver we heard. He only has 2 catches on the year. I think open it up for him. And I know Sark wants to see these guys do really well in practice and then it translates to the game. And I agree with that. For 90% of players, that is 100% true. Guess what? If that's true for 90% of players, there's still that 10% of players where they may not be practice guys, but they play really well during the game. So I'd like to see more guys get the opportunity. I'd like to see Jamie French get the opportunity. I'd like to see more of Khalil Lockett get the opportunity. I'd like to see Aaron Butler get the opportunity because maybe they will surprise you in that game. One of the best players, if not the best player in Texas history, is Vince Young. And we heard this from Mac Brown. He was not a good practice player, and that was hard for them to trust him. Well, guess what? He was a damn good player on Saturday. So why don't we trust some of these guys, especially, again, against UTEP, against Sam Houston? If they're, giving effort in practice at least, reward them on the field. They may not have to produce in practice. They may produce in the game. So that's my opinion with Steve Sarkisian on that. And then at the quarterback position, because we talked about this, and I do agree, Jalen Gilbo to me is good on about 85 to 90% of plays. But you see him, we saw in the Ohio State game, got burnt. And that was only close because it was a bad throw from Julian Sand. But he was still Carnell Tate was still able to make the play over Jalen Gilbo. Jalen Gilbo got burnt 2 to 3 times in this game, and the football was not placed where it needed to be. Otherwise, we're talking about 3 or 4 completions of 20 to 30 plus yards in this game, and we're looking at it differently. Everyone else seems to be doing their job, but that second cornerback position is getting picked on a little bit. I think Grayson Littleton got beat a little bit as well, but again, that's a totally different thing. This is a true freshman. He's allowed to have that once in a while. I'm fine with that. So who do you think could step up there? Is it a Cade Phillips? My suggestion was sliding a Grayson Littleton outside and then bringing Jelani McDonald down in the nickel position. Who do you think could step up at that other cornerback position?
Yeah, I like the Jelani McDonald moving him down because then you have like Xavier Fills and we kind of step in, or Derek Williams step in at that other safety spot. Because I think you're right. Jalen Gilbo has had some pretty big lapses and pretty sticky situations that he's gotten himself into. Because, and even, Kobe Black is another one that I think could probably see some run. He's had some misses, but I also think he's a guy who probably wants to get, he's a guy who's probably got to get into rhythm. I think that we talked about that a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. I'm just so curious because Texas has such a bevy of safeties. They've got a ton of guys, and they've even trained like Michael Taft at that nickel
Yeah.
spot. So I wonder if you move Taft down and have you have your guys move out to you have Grayson Littleton move out to that outside cornerback. Because I'm fine, not fine. Fine's not the right word, but if you're going to have a young cornerback get beat on some routes, I think it's good to do it against UTEP, do it against San Jose State, right? Because, and especially if you have Michael Taft slide up to that nickel spot, which you allow Texas, which you allow gives you a little bit of leeway to go with that, because Michael Taft is one of your most experienced players and he can do some of those things. I think that, not quite as good as what Jahdae Barron did, but when you think about Jahdae Barron's best plays, they were some of those, like, I'm gonna show coverage and then bail out, or I'm gonna show press and bail out, kind of bait a quarterback into a throw. And so ultimately, I think sliding Littleton out probably makes sense because they've done such a good job of cross-training those safeties at nickel. I think you've got like 4 or 5 guys you could probably slot in there.
No, 100%. And I think that is the question, is we really haven't seen Michael Taft slide down the nickel, I think, very much. And that was talked about. Maybe that was just more of talk than anything. But you have guys like, especially, I think Jelani McDonald has played nickelback. We've seen him do it.
Yeah.
And he's a really good athlete, and he's capable of doing that. So I would love to see him slide down, and then you, like, our Derek Williams, I completely trust. So put him out there at safety with Michael Taft, slide down Jelani McDonald, slide Grayson Littleton outside, see what happens. Because, listen, Jalen Gilbo's played enough nickelback and cornerback now to where he should not be getting beat versus teams like UTEP, San Jose State, Sam Houston. If that's going to be a repeating, theme of his, then I'm going to lose a lot of trust, because we've already seen him get beat in the first 2 games at cornerback. I'd rather have that experimentation going on with the true freshman that maybe learns quicker, because, he's already learned the nickelback position really well at Texas, played phenomenal there. So I just, again, I want to see more experimentation, see what happens on the field, because I know, again, we may see things during practice, but do they translate to game day? That may be something with Jalen Gilbo that he struggles with.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is with Jalen Gilbo, because I feel like he's been on the cusp of breaking out each year, and there's just been something in his way. I'm not sure what it is. It's obviously something between the ears, right? It's something going on between the ears that he can't translate the talent and potential he has to production on the field. And it's frustrating, because he's a guy that I think a lot of us had high hopes for. He is definitely somebody who I think has all the physical tools to be a good cornerback at Texas, to be good in that nickel spot at Texas. Like, he's not too physically dissimilar to what Texas has seen success with in that spot. So whatever it's going on between the ears, I'm not necessarily sure with him. But ultimately, like, Texas has to get better, right? You have to get better at that spot, because there are going to be teams that are able to stretch. We saw on Saturday, Mississippi State's coming up, right? Mississippi State has some fast dudes. Brendan Thompson has finally found an offense that works for him. And so they've got to figure it out in these weeks when they've got the significant talent advantage, because that is going to dry up here in about a month.
No, 100%. We can doubt Florida all we want, but DJ Lagway has 2 very good wide receivers with Dallas Wilson and Trey Wilson, and they'll get on the same page, because I know that was the thing too. All these guys have been hurt. It's going to take them a while, especially with Florida, because they haven't practiced together, to get on that same page in the game. So Texas could honestly be catching them at the worst time, because that's going to be right after a bye, after 4 or 5 games are played. They could finally have it together by then, and that could be a scary offense to go against. And then like I'll jump on the wide receivers, because I didn't talk about that much, but it's going to be interesting. Like, do they go? I don't think Jamie French has played. So that's interesting to me, if he's going to play at all in these next 2 weeks, because if he doesn't play at all in these next 2 weeks, he's not going to play at all for Texas this year. Are there any other guys in that room that could possibly jump up and play? Parker Livingstone, we thought this was going to be the 4th best wide receiver on the team. He's been by far the best wide receiver. And then, Emmett Mosley, like, that has turned out to be a gigantic loss. I didn't think it would be that much of a loss, because guess what? I agreed with you, Gerald. I thought Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore, especially DeAndre Moore, was just going to be a reliable target for Texas, and neither of them have been. So we desperately need that reliability factor, and Emmett Mosley definitely was going to be another one of those guys. I think you could have penciled him in healthy for 500 to 600 yards wide receiving, because that's what he did at Stanford with far less talent. And I don't know what the injury is. They have not said, and they don't have to say. This is in the NFL where it listed, hey, this is the injury. We literally have no idea. It could be, I think they said lower body. There's so many damn lower body injuries, and I don't even know what it could be nagging-wise. My guess is calf or hamstring, if we're talking about nagging injuries. And if it's hamstring, I pulled my hamstring. Every time you think it's healthy and try to go do something and you pull it again, it just gets worse and worse. So you really just have to be overly cautious with that. And it's going to be interesting how they handle that going forward.
So something for both of these questions. Where's Ryan Niblett been at?
Yeah.
He's listed on the depth chart at both nickel and X wide receiver. Like, where has that guy been at? Like, he was supposed to be one of these uber talented guys that you can play everywhere, kind of a Swiss Army knife. And has he even gotten a single snap? I don't recall seeing him on the field at all. So, like, where's Ryan Niblett been at? Did he get caught with the coach's daughter? Like, what's going on with him? Like, I need to we need to put out a bolo for that dude, because I don't know where he's at. He was third, fourth string running back last year. They've moved him around. I think they've done a disservice to his development by moving him around so much, because he's such a dynamic athlete. Like, find the guy a spot to play and let him play there for longer than a season and kind of pick up, especially now that Texas needs the help. I think I've always thought wide receiver was probably the best spot for him. Again, I'm not in the coaching meetings, but at practice, but I think of what Texas needs and what he brings to the table, it has always made the most sense for him to line up at wide receiver and be that kind of player. So Ryan Niblett could have something to say about either of these conversations, both at wide receiver and corner, because it's on the depth chart for both of them, but the guy's in witness protection apparently.
Yeah, I mean, we've only used him as punt return, and he really hasn't got many opportunities, because Hark talked about this. San Jose State did a pretty good job, but Ohio State kicked it very short, and he never had any chance to come up and really make a play, especially because he was kicking out of bounds a lot of the time, or it hopped right in front of him. So I understand why he didn't try to make a play there. And yeah, he's a very good athlete. And I think Sark talked about it in one of the press conferences, saying like he was the next up at wide receiver, like if someone went down, and that's not true, because we saw for San Jose State, I don't even think he played a rep at wide receiver. So it's like, okay, I don't know what they're doing with him. I think it'd be to me, I would use him like Keelan Robinson. I think he'd be perfect in that role of, a little bit in the backfield, a little bit in slot, but just get him the ball, because he's a very good playmaker with the ball in his hands. So I agree. I don't know if Texas plans on using him this year. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. There's a couple players like that. Like, I thought Savion Red was underutilized when he was at Texas and transferred to Nevada. I think, honestly, that's probably what's going to happen with Ryan Niblett. I think he probably transfers, because guess what? He probably like, hey, I want some more playing time. A guy like you mentioned, Brennan Thompson, we didn't use him at all either. So there's always one guy on this offense that I look at like, that guy's more talent. We're not utilizing him. What the hell's wrong with that? And I agree with that.
And the Brennan Thompson situation was a little different, because he, if you followed that, he wanted to run track in the offseason, where he really should have, if he wanted to be a football player, like have needed the development in the spring season.